welcome to Adobe Live. I'm your host, Danielle Morimoto, and I'm a senior experience designer here at Adobe, and we are joined by Charlie Waite. We're very excited to have you. How's it going?
Good, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
First time on the stream.
Very first time.
Feeling nervous, excited?
Super nervous.
Oh, okay.
Little scared. But
Yeah.
I think we chatted earlier, so I think it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, we have chatted, yes,
Okay.
which is good.
Yeah.
So we have that base. Thank you guys for joining us. Let us know where you are all streaming in from. We're live in San Francisco. I know you traveled from Southern California.
Yeah, all the way from the mean streets of Newport Beach.
Okay.
It's super tough down there.
Yeah, is it really?
No.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever seen the OC?
I haven't.
Oh gosh, now I feel super old.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I've heard of the OC.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good at least. As long as you've heard of it.
I have.
90210.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we have a good schedule for this week. Right now, we are with Charlie, but earlier today, we had the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Juan, and then the digital imaging section with Luke. Right before this was the XD Daily Creative Challenge. And then from 12 to 2, today and tomorrow, Charlie's gonna be with us. And he is going to be designing a mobile design as well as talking a bit about design systems. So he'll be doing that in Adobe XD, and we're really, really excited to have him. And before I turn things over to him, I just want to let you guys know about today we have a chat and win. So in 30 minutes, make sure you're engaging in the chat, and you'll have a chance to win 10 free Sticker Mule stickers. So make sure that you guys are all chatting, and you can ask anything, around design questions. If you have questions around what Charlie's doing when he's designing, or his process, or just general sort of like career questions for him, make sure that you're sending them in through the chat and engaging. And then we will be also checking the daily creative challenges. So go ahead and check that out. I'll give you a little bit more info to that later on, and we'll be checking that out near the end of the stream, and we can provide feedback for you guys if you submit them through Discord. So yeah, make sure that you are going ahead and doing that. We have people, in Chicago, Nigeria, Minneapolis, all over joining us on the stream today. So thank you guys so much. And with that, awesome. I'm gonna hand it over to you, let you introduce yourself to the stream.
Cool. Yeah, super stoked to be here. Yeah, it's cool to see how many different places of the world are showing up.
Yeah.
Like you said, my name is Charlie. Been a designer for way too long, since 2003, back in the good old days where we were hacking Photoshop together to make web design stuff. Currently designing at Uber. Before that, I was the design director at GoPro for about 4 years, and then was in just a couple different agencies prior to that. So kind of done a little bit of everything. Really enjoying the product space the last few years, working on a lot of design systems. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Should we jump into the work?
Yeah, jump on you're in Adobe XD right now, and let us know what you're thinking about working on today.
Cool. So I thought I would just kind of go through maybe a little bit of the schedule, what I wanted to cover for the first couple days, or for 2 days. See if this thing opens up. So the project I wanted to work on was this idea I had was a mobile app for surfing. Kind of touches on a little bit about communication between close friends, where you're surfing, hanging out, and then there's also this kind of journaling, data stats of where you've been. How many places you surfed, how many good days you've had versus bad days, things like that. So we kind of be walking through that through XD. Kind of wanted to go through a little bit of my process with you guys, so we could kind of probably just jump in there. I will say I'm not an expert at branding and/or naming. So right now it's called Surf App.
There we go. Yeah.
So I think we might need some help from the chat, getting some better. I even see Cowabunga up there, so that's pretty good. That's a good start.
Already on theme.
Yeah, right. So yeah, please help us out with that so we can get a good logo and everything going for the brand and the splash page. So kind of high level from my process, I never really start kind of try to start away from the computer when I'm starting a project, whether it's, a whole new product, it's a feature, whatever it is. I love just kind of getting into like paper, maybe even on the iPad, whiteboard, just something that's really low fidelity so I feel like I can just like throw ideas away. I have tons and tons of bad ideas. So
I think we all do, yeah.
it's very good for me to get all those things out quickly and not get too excited about one idea or a visual design aspect that I'm kind of like noodling on too closely. So I did this like little sketch just to kind of set the stage a little bit. Kind of have this like home feed. Maybe there's some sort of update. Daily, when you wake up in the morning, you open it up, it kind of tells you what places are good. You got like a feed of where your friends are surfing that morning. And then you also have some like other actions that you can take here. So you can add or check into a spot, check out your profile, your stats, as well as like search spots around. I was kind of thinking it'd be cool to do both kind of this like list view and then also kind of a more like geospatial map view.
Oh, yeah.
Just depending on what kind of mood you're in. If you don't have a lot of activity in your feed from people, it might be cool just to kind of see, what spots are going better than others. And then the other page that I kind of wanted to tackle in the 2 days was stats. Like I said, this kind of like documenting of just days basically in time I've kind of grown into recently, and I thought it'd be really cool if I could, figure out over a past year like how many good days I've surfed, where I surfed the most, things like that we could kind of take away. How many days I've surfed in trunks.
Ooh, need to know that.
You need to know that. I mean, it's a luxury in California.
That's true.
Water's
That
cold.
is actually really true, yeah.
The ocean is cold.
I mean, would I know? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
We've talked about this.
We talked about this at length.
I've not been in the ocean for a while.
But you're going
But
tomorrow.
I trust you.
Tomorrow, you're going.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow
Wow.
we're going.
Okay.
Get you in the ocean tomorrow.
Shoot.
Check back on the live stream in the ocean.
We do have some like app names coming in a little bit. We have
cool.
Surf's app, kind of like Surf's Up. From
Okay.
Marissa.
I like it.
Okay. And I don't know.
Write these down.
Yeah. Let us know as he's going through the wireframes and you're getting an idea of what this app is going to be. Yeah, send on in like what you think the name of the app should be. Surfin'. We've got Surfin'.
I like that.
Yeah, and then we'll kind of go through yours and maybe pick one of them for how we're going to move forward with today's app.
I like it. Cool. Let's see what else we got going here. Some other screens that I just kind of called out, just depending on time and how much we have to do today and tomorrow. Just trying to like working through like what a post would actually look like. I think something unique here that I kind of stumbled upon is there's like, unlike Facebook or Instagram or something, it's like there's actually like a pre-post and a post-post, which I now know is the naming's kind of weird. An after post. So there's this idea of like you want to say, hey, I'm paddling out at this location. It looks pretty fun. I'm gonna ride this board. And then when you come back in, this idea of like you open up the app again and it says, hey, well, like how was it? And you can kind of fill out or edit or change anything maybe. To kind of update the post, which I thought was kind of an interesting, I don't know if I've seen that too many places. Always have to have that splash screen, so that's where the name's gonna come in handy. And the logo, login, sign up, all good, and then the profile page.
Nice.
Pretty standard. I think, anything different here is maybe just more kind of like settings, since this isn't really like a social networking app. Maybe it's a little bit more just your feed, where you would edit your boards and what wetsuits you have and like your primary like spots that you surf at.
Cool. I see some more names coming in. So we have Surfed, Point Break, question mark. Surfer's Almanac.
I love Point Break. Such a good movie.
Wave Rider.
That's in the lead.
There we go. What, Point Break?
Well played, Joe. Well played. Yes. And we now know who the profile will be if we use Point Break, so we're good.
Ooh, okay. Point Break is up there then.
Yeah. Cool. So, like I said, early on in my process, I really start, kind of whiteboarding, drawing, whatever it is, just kind of getting those ideas on paper. from there, I kind of jump into actual like pretty lo-fi wireframes. Especially, I think, when you're starting from scratch or from the very beginning and you're trying to do a design system, I find it really hard to actually just jump into the system itself. There's so many unknowns. You don't know button sizes yet. You don't know like how many different size avatars you're gonna need. You don't know like your type ramp exactly. So for me, I kind of use that initial like lo-fi space to really kind of just get my bearings of what I'm building. And then I slowly throughout the process, when I go back through the visual side, start to get into what those what those components would actually be. With that being said, I do start with like some sort of like just area to start with, because I do think there are some components that you can pull over and start getting into so that you're setting yourself up for success, right? One of them is type. I try to go through, find out which type I'm gonna use, start doing that and like starting to set up the actual like components for them and adding them to the assets and things like that. So why don't we go ahead and start doing some of that. I also just kind of go through and like just grab a huge color palette. So I'm not really locked into anything, but I've started to at least set up some ideas of where I'm going and what's happening.
Yeah, I feel like starting in that low fidelity space looks different to everyone of kind of like where they want to start, but it is that general like, things are generally going to change. Like you're still fleshing out the ideas and you just kind of want to get everything down of like the general idea of on each sort of page, like what is it going to look like and what are the elements that you need. And then as it evolves and you go into higher fidelity, you can really hone in like, okay, these are the actual components of like what the buttons are going to look like and the exact color palette and kind of do variation from there.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. I think, it's like you want to set up these, constraints early on so you don't go too crazy, and then that way you don't design like 35 screens and have to go back and like change every single thing. But yeah, it's definitely kind of a give and take. So for typography, I'm using Proxima Nova. This is like a pretty standard type ramp that I've been using, so I feel pretty comfortable with it. So thought it would be good to kind of use it for this week.
Yeah, and I saw you hit the plus sign over in the character style, so using the assets panel to like bring in all of your type.
Yes, exactly. I usually kind of go through and you can start to, let me zoom in here for you guys. I kind of call it out within the artboard itself, but probably be good to go over here and just start to name them as well, which is super fun to watch, I'm sure.
Well, it seems like the Surfin app name was more around, people are saying Kid Cudi. There was a Kid Cudi joke in there that I did not catch.
I did not catch that either.
But I do love some good Kid Cudi.
I think I hit. Did I make that a component? Weird. There we go.
But the advantage of like making these things in character styles is then if you decide to change one of your character styles, like any of the attributes around it, like the actual font itself or the size or, if it's bold or italic, then it'll change across your entire document if you've used it in the character style panel.
Yeah.
So then if you make a big change, you're not going into every single text box and like trying to figure out and like manually adjust it.
Yes. And I'm actually confused on what I did here to get this weird blue box. Is it grouped in the layers? That's why. But it's not ungrouping. There we go.
Oh,
cool.
nice.
All right. Things you never do, and then you're on a live stream and you start doing
tell me
weird
about
stuff.
it, yeah. You're like, I swear this never happens. Yeah, oh no. Don't look away.
Yeah, take a coffee break.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. So let me go through and just start. Whew.
And I feel like it's nice to like organize your files like this as well for when you're working with other people and you start to share files. Someone else can come in and also easily know sort of what they should use for each of the different like type components or like the color palette and things like that. So the assets panel can be really helpful, not just like for yourself and when you're working in the file, but also like working with other people and them having like an organized file to work with.
Yeah. I think that's like, I mean, especially if you're working in like large orgs, documentation, clean files, that stuff is so helpful. It's one of those things that I think it kind of gets out of hand pretty quickly. So the tighter you start with, I think the better.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to have tools like this now that kind of help with that whole process.
Yeah, another app name we had coming in from Brianne was Ride On or Write On.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Surfly, I think, was another app name we had. Or, Nitu said High Waves.
Kind of like
So
that
we've
one
got some
too.
good names, yeah. I think someone said too with like when they started to come up with names, there was something about like using the like hang loose symbol.
Yeah, so
right. People are starting to get into a little bit of
right?
imagery as well.
I know. So obviously we have to use the shaka or the hang loose sign for the likes. So if somebody likes a comment, we're going shaka.
Yes. Oh, okay. I really like.
I will say this pro tip: we tried to do this at GoPro. And we did a lot of user research. Nobody knows what shaka is.
Really?
Outside of like very few people.
Okay.
So
I was like, I mean, I grew up in California, so I guess I agree.
So I think it'll be fine for the live stream, but yes, when you're actually trying to make a global app, probably not the right way.
True. Yeah, so for those of you who are just joining us or who sort of missed some of this, we are here with Charlie Waite, who's designing in Adobe XD, and he's working on creating a mobile app, a surf app right now, and talking through sort of design systems as well. And he's going to be with us today and tomorrow as well. And then in less than 15 minutes, we have the chat and win, so the countdown counter is, I always point the wrong way, it's over there in that corner.
Oh, it is.
See,
That's
it's the
super
opposite.
hard.
Thank you, yes.
And then you get cut off too.
Yeah, you get cut off. So make sure that you're engaging in the chat, asking Charlie or myself any questions around what he's working on or Adobe XD as a product or our process, etc. And we'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, so we have another suggestion here. We have Kahuna for the app name.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Kahuna's classic. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be really hard to go
Hang 10.
away from Point Break.
Yes. I like already knew that's what you were gonna say too. I'm like, the moment that one came up, I feel like you got hung up on it.
Yeah, it's really hard. There's actually might be some really good names too for like colors too. I love like naming the color palettes. We did that quite a bit at GoPro as well. We came up with some good ones. So maybe the ones that we don't use for the app, we can actually kind of port over for some of the colors.
Nice.
Cool, so I got my type set up, got my colors set up. Like I said earlier, I'm not intending to use all these colors, but I kind of was digging this palette and kind of where it was going. So I thought I'd throw them all in here and then kind of when I get into the visuals, start to dive in, see what's working, what's not working, and then we could get rid of everything else that's there. Some of the things that again, probably won't go through all of them now just because of time, but things that I kind of key in on when I'm setting up my systems, it's really typography, color, iconography, sizing and scales depending on how many different like surfaces you're gonna hit. Copy and content is huge. I think it's one that kind of gets lost in the wind. Let's see, accessibility always, and depending on what you're building, motion and kind of the brand voice. I think this is stuff that over the kind of like my career that I've noticed that if you can hit on most of these, with obviously accessibility needs to be hit every time, but all the other ones, you really start to create that system, that consistent theme to where even when things don't actually, somebody goes rogue in a file, which happens everywhere, and they use the 67 point type instead of the 64. It still all looks cohesive and nobody else would really know it. So cool, so all that stuff is set up. We jump back over into kind of the app file. Let me see, I think I need to link my system. Come over here to the assets and add it. So I got all my colors. got all my type set up here. So let's actually start designing.
Nice. And we do have questions for you in the chat. So Kristen's wondering, are you freelance for Uber, or does Uber have offices in Newport?
We have the closest, so our closest office is in LA. But yeah, we have offices pretty much all over the world. But no, I spend most of my week in San Francisco.
Cool. And then the other question was, I'd like to ask, like, what is your inspiration on creating apps? Do you follow the market needs, gather information? What can be done? How do you keep the motivation up and continue?
Let's see. There's lots of questions.
Yeah, yeah, that was a jam. For sure.
Inspiration, I think, just being surrounding yourself by like really talented folks. I think most people my age, not that I'm like old by any means, but like I said, I've been designing since 2003, so that's before apps and iPhones and things. So very self-taught. So I'm always very like intrigued when I show up to work and I'm just watching other people work that have gone to school for this. So inspiration as far as just like constantly wanting to learn, and then just other inspiration, to be honest with you, staying away from the computer as much as possible. I find like when I'm really happy in my like just personal life, that's probably when I'm the most inspired to do stuff, or ideas come a lot freer. So that's kind of where that goes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like I'm similar. I'm like, I need to like go out and get some fresh air, like go for a hike, just do something, like be active is like my thing, then like clear my head and get re-inspired, or just even like using other apps, like using other things, just kind of like everyday stuff, like experiences. I feel like you'll just find like inspiration through those pieces. And
for sure. And I think too, like, a big part of inspiration for me is getting away from what you're working on. Like if you're working on a surf app, don't go to adjacent themed apps, right? Go find something completely different and kind of branch out and see how other people are handling like certain patterns and things like that. Because I think that's where you actually start to, that's where the inspiration happens and less of the copying. Right? Like you see
it's
something.
So hard if you go straight to like the same thing. You can't get it out of your head once you like see things around like the exact idea that you're kind of working on.
Yeah. Cool. So just kind of like, let's kind of unpack this home feed page a little bit here. So like we said, I kind of like this idea of this opening up with some sort of large header. Again, keep in mind this is wireframe, so it's going to be pretty low fidelity. I always like an 8-pixel grid when I'm doing mobile. Obviously on the iPhone here, usually doing like 16-pixel padding, maybe 24. Kind of depends. Sometimes I'll throw the guides on here just to kind of help and snap things a little bit. Looks pretty close. Cool. So that's kind of probably going to be the area for our text. So let's drop some text in here. One of the places I surf a ton is called Blackies. Let's do this. Cool. I don't know, some kind of fun text. Maybe we can change the type to, why are you not short? Keyboard commands not working. Actually, it's my keyboard. See what looks right. Again, just kind of getting some like placement, not really worried too much around. Oh, we should probably add white over here too. See, this is why it's always nice to go back. Where's the little update guy? Does it auto update or does, I thought you had to hit update. Oh, there it is.
At the bottom there, yeah.
Oh, I was looking for it at the wrong place, right? we'll come back to that. Cool. Just dropped in copy there. What else? Sometimes it's good to have. Open this up a little bit for some icons. Again, just keeping this pretty general, not doing anything that we can't undo later.
Nice, and I see some conversation in the chat around like finding colors. Like you started with kind of a color palette, and I know that someone sort of sent in like Adobe Color is one good way to find color as well. And there's a lot of different like websites and things out there to like get started if you don't exactly know where to start with a color palette. And there's also like the Adobe Capture app, which is on mobile, and you can actually like hold your phone up in like real time. So like if you are out like at the beach or something and there's like a nice sunset, or like you just want to capture like colors from the scene that you're seeing, you can actually do that and then bring those colors into your Adobe applications really easily, and it'll capture like 5 different colors. I know that they're coming out with some new features that I can't quite say, but it's exciting.
Come on.
So that's a good one too. And you can capture like fonts. You can capture live like vectors as well. Bring those into Illustrator. So there's a lot of fun stuff in that app.
Yeah, I love the idea of the live capture. I think that's, we were talking about getting outside and like, you know, actually like living your life, and that's
Really?
and that's where like the inspiration comes from, right? Like you see something like I actually found these colors I think on like a poster from an artist that I really liked. So I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool, that works. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I think, you know, color and type, I mean, you could probably spend 2 hours just sitting here and just going through that whole exercise. It's so...
Oh, easily, yeah.
So just kind of working on the feed here, just kind of, again, seeing what makes sense from a sizing standpoint, trying to get like a lay of the land of what all I want to incorporate here. So kind of just an extension to what we're doing over on the hand-drawn area. Also starting to see like just sizing, what looks good, what makes sense. Type is probably a little large. All right, so we might have to go back and tweak that a little bit. Cool, yeah. And then also, you know, just staying about as true as you can to that 8-pixel grid. Helps with alignment, scale. It's a big thing, especially when you're moving towards like different like surfaces. You know, what looks good on mobile is not going to look good on web, just from a responsive standpoint. But then also just giving enough flexibility in the system itself to kind of grow and scale.
Totally.
Repeat the grid.
And on that note, now is the time that we are going to head on over into our next section, which is Chat and Win. So make sure that you are heading on over to the Behance chat if you're not there already, and we are going to head into the portion of Chat and Win. Hello. All right, we are back with Paco, a special viewing of Paco. Make sure that you're engaging in the chat right now for a chance to win the Sticker Mule stickers. Goodbye, Paco. And also let us know, you know, what you think the official final name of the app should be. We had a lot of great names, but maybe figuring out what that exact name should be for the app for today. And I know you were starting to lean towards that Point Break.
I have a hard time going away from
yeah.
Point Break.
I mean, we heard a lot of really good ones,
I
though.
know.
Yeah.
Paco's getting some love.
I mean, it's always such a beautiful, rare sighting to see Paco on the stream. Yeah, Paco, surprise guest.
got in here. He didn't like my design, so he decided to hop in here. And
Yeah. He came and he was like, "Is that really what you're working on?"
Yeah,
And I'm out.
Man, that sounds super good.
Lindsay, Surf's app. Big wave. Surf's up. The wave. The wave.
The wave. It's a radio station, I think.
Is it really?
I think so.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Big wave. Cool. Well, we have our winner for today. So congrats to Bryson for winning the 10 free Sticker Mule stickers. Don't be too sad if you didn't win today, because you can still use our code to go over to Sticker Mule and get some stickers for a great price as well. So use this code above. And also, we'll be back again tomorrow. So if you didn't win today, like, come back, see Charlie, see what he's working on and the evolution of what he's doing, and you'll have a chance to win again in tomorrow's portion. Yes, and for the winner for today, someone will be messaging you through Behance to claim your prize. Stickers. Awesome stickers.
Stickers.
Yeah.
Everybody loves stickers.
I
Put them
mean,
on your
you
laptop.
can't go wrong. I know. I need to. Actually,
good.
I'm like waiting. I have all these wonderful stickers. I have other
one.
stickers that. Oh, do you have? Okay.
I just have our maps one.
Oh, you have your maps one? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love putting stickers on mine, but I'm waiting. I'm supposed to get a new computer.
You're
They've been
still
kind
on
of
the-
bothering me, about how long I've been keeping this one.
You're like-
So it's like going to like,
got,
it
like, the
makes,
HDMI
it
ports
literally
and-
like
yeah.
sounds like it's launching every 5 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting. I don't want to like waste them on here. I have like a Totoro. Do you know who Totoro is?
I don't.
The character? Okay, it's like a Miyazaki animated character. But anyway, he like he sits and then like the apple of like the
Oh,
computer
yeah,
like
it
is
goes
on
in.
his head. It's like,
love those
yeah, it's
ones.
wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting for my new computer. Anyway.
Let's do a deep dive into
Yeah, let's
the,
not.
the sticker life on a new laptop.
Yeah.
I know, you get some of those stickers and you only have one of them. And it's like,
Yes.
it's precious.
It's so precious. I used to, when I was a kid, I had a sticker book that you
Okay.
could like put them all in, because I just felt like too stressed about deciding where to actually put any of them. Such a problem.
Nice. Yeah, so we're just kind of continuing along here. Let's grab a different color. Get out of that little group here. See, I have a new computer because my shift key is stuck.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Hence why the ungrouping keyboard command, Shift Command G,
I feel like
ungroup.
of all the buttons that could have gotten stuck, it's kind of bad that shift.
left,
yeah, yeah.
I mean that, or like the space bar.
Yeah.
The space bar.
Space bar would have been the end of the world, yeah.
Let's do like, I was kind of thinking, so separating having like a time and like a day component in this feed, because time for surfers is pretty important. Like if you're surfing in the morning versus the afternoon, conditions change pretty drastically. So starting to look at like, what does it look like if we do in the morning?
Nice, yes. Marissa had a sticker book too.
A sticker book.
Sticker book buddies.
So a big thing that like, not that we want to talk about my kids for hours, but my
do
kids
it.
have like Hydro Flask are like the new thing. Like everybody wants water bottles.
Yeah.
That's like the new Trapper Keeper.
Is a huge
right?
thing right now, yeah.
And now it's like all about stickering your Hydro Flask.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
if I come home empty-handed of Adobe stickers, I'm going to.
Oh, no. Oh, we'll hook you up with
it's
stickers.
not gonna
Don't
be
even,
good.
yeah, that's not
It's
going to be
not
an
gonna
issue.
Cool. So. Let's use a label. Cool. I get asked this a lot, actually. Like, so I use blue as kind of like, I don't know if it's like the wannabe architect in me, but like for my wireframes, but I always use blue instead of gray. I think sometimes gray with like a lot of the trends now, it's actually hard to tell a wireframe from like visual design sometimes if you're using gray and black. So the blue, when everything is blue, it's pretty apparent, although we are doing a surf app, so maybe it breaks now. But that this isn't going to be the visual design, right? Blue and white. Cool. So just setting up some copy. Is there a good plugin for copy?
There are some. We definitely have
Like Lorem Ipsum.
some plugins. Yeah. Also, yeah, if you head on over to my screen, I have up like for Adobe XD, there are a bunch of new plugins now, and so you can go ahead and check those out. There's everything from like just like bringing in like what you have from Trello and Google Sheets, but there's also like some fun ones like Angle, which you can basically just like bring perspective mocks like really quickly, so you don't have to actually go into another app to do that. You just like take the screen that you want and define that, and it'll automatically do that for you. I saw when I was on the stream the other week, we had someone on who was using when you have avatars and you're constantly like doing like user profiles, instead of like going and having to find photos of people and then like dragging those all in, there's just like, you know, a plugin that'll just like put fake people in for you, so it just like quick time savers.
UI faces.
UI faces, yes.
UI faces.
Oh, okay.
That is a huge time saver. Yeah. Because then you have to resize all the, like, the Lorem Ipsum, like, the type stuff is super cool. It's handy, but it's like, you can kind of, it's pretty easy to import.
Yeah.
When you're having to, like, resize avatars over and over, and then you can do a full deep dive, like, on avatars, too. It's like, I don't know if that one works for me. If we're having a Point Break one, we're going to have to find, like, Keanu Reeves one.
Yes.
Can't wait for Keanu Reeves.
I mean, let's do it. Yeah, like, what was that moment? I don't know. Do I regret it? Slightly.
He's making a comeback, right? Like, he's pretty...
Oh, 100%, yeah. Well, I am really into, like, the, the new ones that he does, the really dark ones. I'm, like, having a total brain moment here.
The new, like, little, like, clips he's doing? What's he doing?
The
John
Wick.
Wick.
Thank you.
Yes.
John Wick.
Yeah.
They're so good.
That one was tough for me,
Side note.
though, because that, like, with the scene of the dog, I was like, but then it got better. It got better.
Yeah.
But
it's intense. I definitely have a level of what I can handle of gore and things. Like, if it's too real, I can't handle it. But when it's over the top like that, I'm just like, yes, this is great. Too much information? Perfect.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one. It's like a very, like, Bourne Identity.
Yeah, like those like action movies.
I just watched something with my wife on Netflix, and he was in, and it was like he played himself.
Oh yes. Oh, it was the chick flick one. I watched that too. Do I watch too much TV? Possibly. Yes. Oh, he was really funny. Yeah. As like that. Oh, like fancy boyfriend of himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he played it so well. I was just like.
Yeah.
So
I heard he just
awesome.
went in and for like not even 3 days and like filmed that.
That makes it even
just
better,
went in,
right?
yeah, did
like,
himself, just killed it. Ooh, another app name we had in here from Julia, Maverick. This is a famous big wave spa off the California coast. Got his like detail on it. I like it.
I like that too.
I think someone said Maverick reminds me of Top Gun and Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Just another great movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, welcome to movie time.
Yeah. Let's transition into
Cool. So I'm just trying to like play around with this a little bit, see what feels right. Again, not getting too locked in, but we can do our shaka here.
Yes.
We can just do this thing. I love that tool, by the way. I don't know what it's called.
Which one?
It's the, give me the point text.
Oh, the point text versus, area text.
Oh my gosh. So nice. So you're not like trying to like figure out the bounding boxes all the time. Add in some comments. Everybody likes comments.
I feel like tomorrow I'm gonna need to like dress more appropriately for the fact that we're making like a surf app.
Like Hawaiian
shirt day. Oh, Hawaiian shirt day. Oh, I'm so down for that. Are you gonna dress for the app tomorrow? Can you? Oh, because you traveled.
I traveled.
You traveled.
I could go on a
Can
shopping
you
spree.
find? Yeah, it's like we're in San Francisco. Can you very quickly buy a Hawaiian t-shirt?
That's expensive already. I could do that. Yeah. Cool. So that's looking pretty good. I'm thinking like probably have like a nice combination between images and non-images, especially like that pre-post surf thing. Let's jump into the layers a little bit. Grab these guys, group them. hit the repeat grid. Also one of my favorite features.
Mine too.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Cool. It's a little anticlimactic because it.
This is a big one.
1.5-ish. But then, yeah, it's just so nice. And like all these things, just, you know, I mean, talking about design systems and all this stuff, it's like really about, you know, saving time and paying attention to what's actually like important, and you're not getting bogged down too much in the wrong things. And my shift key, come on. Let's see what it would look like without image.
So you made a repeat grid to double that element, and then did an unrepeat grid to disconnect them. So
yeah, so it's just saving the time of, you know, the duplication of it. And like we said, it wasn't as awesome as it normally is because we're doing it on mobile, but you can imagine like if you were doing like a table layout or something, or like a group of cards like on a web page, how much time that saves you. And then to go back and iterate just really quickly on them, it's super simple. Cool. All right, so this is feeling pretty good. Maybe we'll just have like a little, just so we don't forget about it, like a little peek back here. What's today? We'll just call this August 15th.
It's the 21st.
Well, we have today.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying you're going back in time.
I thought you were asking what the
like
date today was. Totally, yeah.
Yeah, I often don't know.
I was like, oof, slightly off.
I often don't know what day it is. Summer's really bad.
Summer is the worst.
The kids really kind of like help keep you on schedule, and when they're not in school, it's not good. Maybe we'll start taking a look at some of the navigation elements. Obviously, from a design system standpoint, this will be a big area that will be a great component for us, so that, you know, down the line when that random director walks in and is like, we need to add 2 more tabs, you don't have to go in and completely blow up 39 artboards. You can fix it on the master component, which is always super helpful. Got like a little add button there. I'll just do the rectangles for the other ones for just placeholders. So I was thinking we would do like the feed button, maybe the explore or search. We could do profile, and then the stats page. Let's ask a question. Should the stats page be on the profile, or should the profile and the stats page be itself? Be a single page?
Yeah, let us know. It's a good one.
Yeah. Let us know. And your favorite movies. All right, cool. So that's kind of looking pretty good. Any other things I had called out here? Good. All right, let's check out like the map. So just gonna duplicate this guy. Stickler for naming these things. Cool. So I want to keep the, let's get rid of this. I want to keep the morning update. Might be kind of cool actually. We should probably throw a close button on this guy. Jump over and grab a close icon. So it's not in the way all the time. Whoa. All right, we'll just leave that here. That doesn't work, but we'll figure it out later. So I also kind of just, again, since this is just kind of where my eyes are only, I kind of use sometimes my designs are actually like notes just to come back to. So obviously on a home page, we wouldn't have a close where you would normally be like closing like a modal or kind of an action sheet or anything. But just kind of this idea that in the feed it works well, but maybe you're not surfing, you're just kind of checking out, you want to scroll through. It might be nice if you can get rid of this. But if you want to keep it there, it might be nice to have it scroll behind. But then when you get to the map view, it gets super weird. We need to pull some maps in later too.
So to answer your question earlier, Tim says should be prominently featured on the profile. So we have one suggestion there.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, I was going back and forth between that journal and stats. Like maybe it could just be like a tabbed approach. So the stats are the first tab, and then you can go into like your feed. So you just see kind of your...
It's more of like the mirror of yourself kind of section.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
So while Charlie's working on this, I do want to remind everyone that we have our XD Daily Creative Challenge. So we have the countdown that's going on. So you have a little over 40 minutes to submit to today's Creative Challenge. And you can go here to behance.net/challenge/XD to find out more of the information and figure out how it works. But it's really simple. Today we have a challenge for Auto Animate, which is what if computers could interface with the human brain. Design the control system for a Neuralink-inspired app that allows users to download and manage brain space. Ooh. So I'm like, whoa. When I read today's, I was like, okay, cool. So there is a file that comes with that when you go ahead and download it. And this is what it looks like when you jump into XD. So it has a whole bunch of starter information for you of what the challenge is and what to focus on. There's some inspiration in there as well. And as always, a ton of resources. We've been talking a bit about like icons and colors, etc., or like getting some photos. There's a bunch of links in here for you to get like started with all of this stuff. And same with like fonts. You can go to fonts.adobe.com. And we're excited to see what you guys make today. Charlie and I will be able to give you guys some feedback in 40 minutes. You just have to upload it to Discord, and we'll be able to take a look, and everyone on the stream will be able to help give you some feedback as well, and we can just take a minute to see what you guys have all created. So make sure that you are doing that, and otherwise, like Charlie's gonna keep on designing his surf app, and I feel like it's coming along. Oh, you got like a map in already.
Maps in. We're doing it. We're getting
Nice.
somewhere. It's really hard to design and talk.
Is it? Yeah.
It's like it really is like.
That multitasking is quite the
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I just feel like in a typical day when you're working and you're designing, you're not talking out loud about everything that you're doing, right? It's a very rare thing that you would ever do that. So it's kind of like an odd paradigm, yeah.
It would be pretty awesome if you just walk by somebody's desk and they're just like...
describing everything they're doing.
Make avatar smaller. It's like, what are you talking about?
Pretty sure I'd be like, are you a robot? Like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
I know, right? All right, that kind of gives us the idea, right? We could actually, I usually don't do this in wireframes, but because we were talking about that plugin, let's just check it out because it's just so cool. So you just install the plugin, right? And then you can actually pick where you want it from.
And which plugin is this? Is the
UI Faces?
UI Faces.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see what happens. See if I did it right. Look at that.
Boom.
Boom. I don't know. Pretty cool. I always like little things like that that took so long to do.
Well, it's just now you don't have to leave the app, right? It's like you're
Yeah.
just in one space, which
Sure.
makes a big difference, yeah.
All right, cool. All right. What else are we missing off that page? A little like locate would be good to, you can't tell from a chicken scratch, kind of like orient yourself. So if you're scrolling around, quickly get back to your location. So we probably need some sort of beacon as well. Let's just say I'm right there. Cool. That works. And then we'll do another one. we'll have to come back to that. We'll see how that actually works in practice, making sure that doesn't feel like it's competing with any other actions, because it's probably a smaller component. Let's see if we can find like a location icon quick.
And where are these icons coming from that you have?
So I just have them in Illustrator, icon set. That's kind of a good go-to. Nothing, it's kind of good for wireframes, especially, it's pretty generic, has lots of options. Just kind of looking for something. It was hard to find them though. If they were in the design system already, that would be good. Nice and named. It's really hard to find on.
Like, who on the chat can locate
the extra added
which
pressure?
row? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, we're not going to do this. This is driving me nuts now. It is. I think it's probably too small. What's this? All right, we're not going to do it anymore. Let's do this. I know that was riveting live stream right there. So.
Ooh, Hillary said under the Wi-Fi icons.
Oh, Hillary. Thanks, Hillary.
Is that
under the Wi-Fi icons?
There's Wi-Fi ones over here, so there's location ones. Thank you. Ooh, good call. Just had to ask the chat. They're on it.
You guys are.
It's a good eye.
The power. I know. How does she see that? She's in my file. What
Yeah.
is she doing? Get out of there. All right, cool. So we got couple wires looking good. Let's move on to let's just mock up that profile page. We got time? We got time. Real quick, and then I think we'll probably get on the wires and we can start playing around with some of the system stuff.
Cool.
Any good design system questions folks have?
I know Santaji was asking, what is the icon set called, or like the one that you were using, if that's something that's accessible, or?
Yeah. I don't remember it might be called flat icons. Yes, I think that's what they're called. It's one of those ones that I think I've had for so long. It's just a good go-to where you're not overthinking and getting too stylized. You can just kind of plop stuff in and start to move things around.
Yeah, let us know where you guys usually grab like icons from, if you have any good resources for that. I know in like the XD Creative Challenge, there's definitely some links to things like the Noun Project, which is pretty popular, or Jollycons and Icon Bros. So there's a lot of different sites out there to grab like different sets of icons. I know finding like a set like that is actually really useful because they all look similarly styled. I know some people, it can be hard when people go off for like a one-off icon and they go to the Noun Project and then they go to find another icon for their design, but then it doesn't really feel like the weight is different, right? And it just doesn't match stylistically. So the sets can be really nice.
Super helpful. And then, I mean, they're honestly, all those icon sets that are out there now, it's amazing. Yeah. Sometimes you have to go and even like, maybe modify, like if we were doing this for the surf app, like it's probably gonna be hard to find like a wetsuit one or, surf trunks or stuff like that, but maybe you can find one that you can kind of like figure out and make fit within that set.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's do, I think the suggestion was stats and profile, or on the profile page, and we'll make the stats kind of the primary focus, and then the other tab will be more the feed.
So we do have a question around design systems. Do you control coverage of design system in the development, or you let devs have their own separate components library?
I think It's kind of a hybrid, I think. You know, you kind of have to figure out what works best within the org structure. You know, the larger the company and team, you kind of have to give, you know, kind of help fit to what works best in their workflow. I think the biggest part about that is just the constant collaboration. You know, if you can have design system, like, you know, design engineers working on your design system with you and helping making those components and the component library available that they can tap into, and then there's that constant feedback loop. Usually seems to be the best way to do it. You know, the smaller the team, obviously you can kind of get away with, you know, different working models.
Yeah. Yeah, keep them coming if you have, that was a great question. If you have any other questions around design systems, go ahead and send them on through the chat.
Everybody likes a big avatar, right? Looking at themselves.
Yeah, I actually think yes. It's like something we were talking about recently. I was working on a design that involved like a profile. People were like, bump that avatar up. Like, people want to see it bigger, yeah.
People want to see that. If this is going to be Keanu's face, I mean.
Oh, let's make it the whole page.
Like, right? Like, okay, we're going to go full screen avatar. All right, cool.
That's the one thing we're willing to go outside the app. That's where we're going to take the most time, is just searching Keanu photos. Is that right? No?
Come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
2 hours of Google Images, Keanu faces.
That's where you put the pods in, and that's when you don't talk to me and you just do, like we were talking about earlier.
Deep dive.
It's just a deep dive into Keanu.
I bet there's some good Keanu Reeves gifs, too.
For sure. Oh, there has to be.
My favorite
That's
one's
my homework for tonight.
Yes, the Point Break one where it's like the Mentos where he's in the rain and he turns around. Do you know that one?
I do not know that one.
You don't know that?
No. That's why I'm saying homework for me tonight.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, cool. We need some sort of stats. Let's do some bar charts. Everybody loves bar charts, right? It's a thing? Is that not a thing? All right, maybe it's not a thing. Oh, that's a good one. This will be better for our repeat grid, I think. This might have more wow factor.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Not wow. That's going to be cool. Then we can just play with the heights.
I do love bar charts also, and now that there's like, fine. Now that there's auto animate and there's like a lot of fun, like the different interactions and the animations you can play with, like when you do transitions into like the bar charts, can be really like a fun thing to like kind of dive into.
Yeah.
And it's like the small little details like that in an app sometimes that I'm like, ooh, like you have that little moment of delight.
There's something cool too, like, yeah, like especially in something like this where we're actually, you know, we're giving. A lot of the value is you like doing something like a lot here. So seeing something like grow in and being like, oh, I've surfed like 25 days this month.
Yeah.
That, like you said, that little moment of delight, that little extra thing kind of keeps, those are like the little hooks that keep people coming back, which are always good to figure out. All right, we got a bar chart. Should probably do some sort of, I think I called it out. The monthly, let's do weekly. Ooh, where do we go? I'm in a group. So just working on another tabbing option down here. Weekly, monthly, if I could spell. I'm gonna start designing like this now at my desk. People are gonna ask me to leave. Talking out loud. I'm gonna be that guy. That's okay.
I kind of think that would be great.
I know, I kind of do too. Think about like, no, you would have like so much room by yourself.
That's true. Yeah, you get people, there'd oddly be like a circle of space around you.
Just
yeah.
leaving. I don't.
I mean, what's it like? You work from home most of the time, right? And you obviously fly in pretty often, but what's it like sort of like being remote, and like what are the things that you enjoy, and like what are the things that are more difficult about that?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about, Justin's asking for pie versus bar charts.
Oh.
That's a whole nother debate, Justin. I think so. The cool thing about how I am now is I'm not really remote or on-site. I'm kind of in the middle, where I'm coming up every week. So I try to schedule a lot of my meetings, one-on-ones, things like that during the FaceTime days. And then when I'm home, I actually have that kind of more heads down design time. So I actually find it's actually like the perfect balance, and it's really not too different than I think most people. Like, I don't know how your schedule is, but a lot of people kind of work from home 1 day or 2 days a week, just depending on, you know, what their week is looking like.
Yeah, and when you have meetings, and you need the FaceTime or don't. Yeah,
I think the big difference for me is I hop on a plane to get the FaceTime, which is like, but it's really not that bad. But I like that structure of location actually kind of influences what you're doing. Like, it's really easy to get in a mindset when I'm at home, like just to be heads down. I don't get as distracted. But when I try to work at the office sometimes, like I'm kind of like, oh, bright lights, like I can't focus as well. So I would say that's probably the one downfall, is like I'm so set in that routine now that like it does get a little weird when you get out of it.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I mean, I feel like depending, like you figure out what spaces work for you to do certain things, but it's like you definitely have a certain environment that's like best for certain things. It's hard for me, like I live in like alone, and like if I go to work in like a studio apartment, and like it's hard to transition out of like that work mindset and then into like a just like, okay, now I'm at home and I'm like chilling. So for me, it's like easier to be at work and like stay at work and do work there, and then when I go home, it's like, oh, okay, like I can easily transition into like just like unwinding for the day. Yeah,
I think it's super healthy to be able to do that too, though. Like when you have those things that actually forces you to do that, like totally. I missed because we started talking about Keanu Reeves and I got all flustered. Started missing out. So I thought one thing that'd be cool is like, you know, the bar chart's cool. Maybe we'll do pie charts, Justin. It like really kind of focusing in on like those high level items. Like I had written down like spots might be a really like, or location of where you've surfed might be a really cool one to track at like a larger like numeric value versus having to dive into a chart. Sometimes charts are great, but they're also, you know, don't quite give you that.
It is nice to pull out sometimes like the one big kind of focal stat that you kind of want.
Yeah. So this is like probably a good time where like, oh, that actually works out pretty good, that size. I was thinking, you know, that sometimes when you get into some of these like one-offs, this is where you go back into that design system and start to mix around with type a little bit and realize like, this isn't exactly working. Although if you can adhere to your design system.
So do you have a question on the chat for you? When working on cross-platform apps for iOS and Android, how do you strike a balance between following the native UI conventions of each platform and having a consistent experience for both? Yeah,
that's a good question. We ran into this a lot at GoPro, where we had three things. Like we had the iOS guidelines, we had Android guidelines, and then we had this brand that is massive with GoPro. And there was almost like three decisions to make sometimes. It was like, you know, like when we were doing icons, we actually ended up doing different icons for Android versus iOS. And then we also, you know, the patterns we tried to stick as closely to iOS and like material as possible. And then areas where we felt like GoPro actually owned that area or space, then we kind of went off a little bit.
But like your normal patterns, like we didn't reinvent settings pages or things that are kind of already baked in out of the box. But like the player, our player required certain things that, Material just didn't really account for, or iOS. So we kind of looked at it and tried to gauge when it made sense to actually break those guidelines. And I think it's very similar to design systems, right? Like you should try to stay in those constraints as much as possible, and then just have a really good reason and foundation of
if and when you break them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great question.
Yeah.
We have a question from Alex around, will XD get more features like cover effect or more animation options? That's a great question. Yeah, I like the response. All in due time, though. Yes. I have up on my screen, just for those of you who don't know about Adobe XD, uservoice.com. So if you guys are ever interested in like what's going on with the features, or you have a feature that you really want to see within the product, like this is where you should go. The team takes a look at this, and so you can basically go in and you can see like the top one is like tap hover effect. And so you can actually vote on which ones you want to have within the application and like bump those up. So right now this one is actually also marked as like feature started, so that's being worked on by the team, and you can kind of get a sense of where the team is on some of these. This one's under review, so they're thinking about animating individual elements separately. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of features that you might find like other people really want as well and are asking for. And so yeah, people get really excited. Hover states, I agree, we need them. But yeah, so go here, check it out, make sure that you're voting for the features that you want, and then the Adobe XD team will take a look, and they're working on and like trying to take your input as well into like what they should be doing next for the product.
I could only imagine the amount of requests from designers. Right? Like we're pretty
anything and everything. I'm like, when there wasn't like the eyedropper wasn't a thing yet. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's an eyedropper. But it's like every feature is being rethought instead of just going with the standard, like what's happened within other applications. It's like rethinking everything and making sure that it's the best design for the product for like moving forward. Yeah. So it took a little while. It takes some time, but it's coming out there.
It does. I mean, I think everything, I remember like the early days, right, where I don't even think like layers were the thing. Like, I remember seeing it like for the first time and being like,
where are my layers?
They got rid of layers? Like this is either the best thing or the craziest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, everything takes time. Right? Yeah.
Hey, Jeannie. Jeannie's tuning in from, I'm sure, the East Coast. So shout out to her. Yeah.
All right, we need one last. I'm putting trunks in here. I know you laughed at my trunks comment.
I did laugh at the trunks comment.
As somebody that frequents the ocean a lot, like yourself, you should know that the water is not super warm.
Should never have told you that information.
Yeah, you should have got some tips from Hillary on what to talk about.
Oh, seriously, shoot. Know what I'm doing after the stream today.
Hillary, be nice. No. If you're still watching. Let's see here. All right, cool. So we got some stats up here. We got our bar chart. Cool. We probably need some sort of title.
See, Tim brings up the zombie babies. I warned you about the zombie baby thing. But luckily, Paco is not in the room right now. Although I never trust. You never know where he is. Sometimes I'll see him pop up. So I won't be mean to Paco when Paco's not here, because you never know.
You got to be careful. I was just designing here, and the next thing you know, he's on top of the computer, changing my designs out of nowhere. It's like, Paco, we just met, man.
All up in your space.
Ghost mouse. All right, cool. All right, cool. So I think that's looking pretty good. Obviously, this is kind of not perfectly how I would normally be doing this, but largely what I'm looking for here is like those consistent patterns, you know, starting to, at this level, you can really start to see like where the system is laying out. You're starting to see like, okay, we're gonna have like a couple profile sizes, you know, you're getting these like stat icons, you know, dashboard type work, some more avatars in the map space, icons, navigation. You're starting to understand it a little bit better. And for me personally, I love doing it this way so that when I do go back and start building out the system, I'm not just making things up or actually putting work into something that I don't need.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, like all the great features and plugins, it's all about like saving time and like focusing on like the actual problem. So anytime you can do that, I highly recommend it. There we go. Just duplicate this guy. We'll switch this over.
Cool, and just a reminder, we're around the 17-minute mark around when Charlie and I are going to be taking a look at your XD Creative Challenge submissions for today. So make sure that you're starting to thinking about finishing those up and sending those through Discord so we can take a look and give you guys some feedback.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's always fun to look at what people are kind of working on from like whether they're like just beginning with XD or kind of a little bit more experienced. And I'm interested in the neuro one. We'll see if anyone does anything for today's brain challenge.
Yeah, I'm constantly just blown away by like the talent that's out there now. It's insane. I remember like my first like early days on Dribbble compared to like what it is now. And like some of the work on there is just like, this isn't even like, this is artwork. It's not even design at some level, you know?
Yeah.
Some of the illustrations and things. All right, cool. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Let's not get too lazy. Keep naming things. Call that one stats. We got our map view. All right, cool. So we're looking pretty good. So next thing I normally kind of do after I feel like I've, you know, got the wires in a pretty good spot is like we talked about going in and starting to like identify these like components and see, you know, what are the areas that we can start to look at as a system. So we can just kind of be making notes, navigation, obviously, avatars. You know, I'm curious to know what like the chat room thinks too. It's like some of these like one-off things, you know, whether you make them a component or not. I always kind of on the fence with it. It's like probably only gonna have one bar chart. Like, you know, do we actually really need to spend the time there? However, you don't really know where the future is gonna take you, so it might be good. The feed, I think, is a good example where we're going to have, you know, multiple. Oh, we lost our image on this one. No biggie. But yeah, you'll have different kind of lockups with that. Some with an image, some without. So those are always good to make in there as well. So maybe let's start with like the avatars. Let's come back over here. Maybe make a new artboard.
Cool, yeah, and to Tim's point on the chat, like components are the hot new thing. I have up on my screen also like letsxd.com/what's new. So you can check out the latest stuff, and a lot of what's been going on is around design systems. And you can check out like there's, you know, components and linked assets, which Charlie has been showing off while he's working through his process. So there's a ton of videos and just resources on here if you're interested in learning a bit more or just kind of getting started. There's also what's called snackables, which I'm gonna get hungry. But they're like little tidbit of bites. Like Charlie's been showing off and talking about repeat grids in his designs and been using like grids and things like that. So there's a bunch of little like just quick digestible things that you can take a look at here if you want to learn a bit more. So this is just, again, like a good resource if you're interested in Adobe XD, like just getting started, or if you're even like more advanced, like not missing out on some of like the latest updates that they're making to the product.
Nice. I like that. I like the donuts too.
Yeah, I could eat a donut.
I could eat a donut. We're gonna have a lot of good one-liners after today.
Oh shoot, yeah, it's a problem.
So even though like we didn't go into like super pixel perfect on the wireframe, I always use it kind of as a guide and a reference just to see, as I was working like quickly through there, like where we ended up with on like avatar sizes and type settings and things like that. Even though the wires aren't gonna lock us into that, it's just kind of a good guide, and then kind of helps when you come back into this world over here. All right, cool. So we've got our Keanu Reeves size avatar.
Oh, I'm so excited. You haven't seen the John Wick movies, I'm assuming?
I've seen the first two.
Oh, the first
I haven't
two.
seen the third
Okay.
one.
I haven't either. I really wanted to see it, but nobody would go with me because they thought it was too gore. I think it just was like too much for them.
Oh yeah.
So now I'm past the point where I feel like it's not in theaters and I have to wait.
Oh, I think it came out
see it.
though. I think it's out.
No, like it was in theaters.
No, I know, but I mean, I think it's like
Like out, like available to
yeah.
stream
go to
somewhere.
like Blockbuster now and get it.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Thank you for that tip. Like, genuinely want to see it.
Yeah, maybe we could just ask the chat. Should we do more design systems tomorrow or watch John Wick? It's probably gonna hurt my feelings because I'm guessing that people are gonna say let's watch John Wick together, but that's okay.
That's also my other side dream. It's just to commentate on videos, like on movies and things. That would be fun. Maybe just like, 2 minutes. We're just like pure commentating. See, last time on the stream, I realized my dream. I have too many. Everything is
Got a lot of
the
dreams.
dream. Yeah, but last time I realized I wanted to be on like a game show, and like be like the host of a game show. But now it's gonna be a new dream. Did you not like that avatar?
So I was just thinking in my head, if I hit apply, is it gonna give me like kind of like something different? Give me different. I was really.
Okay.
If Keanu Reeves showed up.
Oh, that'd be it. I'd be out. And like my job just like
close the laptops. Let's move on.
Yeah.
His head's cut off, so it's kind of like Keanu.
Could be. Yeah.
All right. We'll find a good Keanu face for tomorrow.
Okay.
But right now we'll just go here, make some components. Q. And then, let's see. Let's call this large avatar. I'm sure you guys know, but it's Command K for components. Correct?
Yeah.
Did I make that up? It's funny when you like try to actually remember.
I think yeah,
what
I
the
always have to
keyboard
like
commands
actually
are.
go and do it myself.
Your hands are just like constantly just doing it all day. Cool. So those are all set up, which is good. I usually try to keep my avatars, icon scales, all those good things kind of in check as well. We won't jump into icons today just because it's don't have the time. But it kind of follows that same kind of scale set as well. Again, keeping everything consistent, feeling right. Avatars and icons usually kind of tend to occupy like similar spaces. So I just find keeping them
together like that is kind of nice and cohesive. Actually start to look at like navigation. Let's see what we were going with here. 84. Ew, maybe that's what happened. Maybe we didn't add it. That's why I didn't update.
That could, I mean,
Make sure
maybe.
make sure to add your color to the assets before. All right, cool. Fonts, we don't need that guy. All right. I should do something different over here. I don't know, sometimes I have it, like when I'm doing this type of work, it's the sticker sheet layout's kind of cool. And then sometimes with the components, depending on like what colors you use, it's kind of difficult. So I might actually just jump in and like do some components in more like artboard style. Just kind of depends. And then maybe bring them over so that.
And then with this, like this file that you're making for the app, is this something that you then share with like the rest of your team or whoever's working on it, or sort of what's the purpose? I guess you have like your 2 different files right now.
Yeah, I like having separate, right? So I like having like the design system, and then like it kind of depends on what goes in there, but really kind of more like that sticker sheet type stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe like layouts and like some documentation and things like that in one file, and then the actual products or features or whatever you're working on as like separate standalone files, so that they're not obviously bloating those files or people jumping into it accidentally, rather than like utilizing just the asset panel.
Yeah. I feel like it's a great habit to get into. It's like one of those, like we talked about, kind of like tidiness or organization of files, like just like naming all your layers or naming your artboards and things like that that actually make a huge difference for like scaling things, I feel like, as well. Because also like we're obviously that you only have so much time to design this app, but like for an actual app, like you'd have multiple, like a ton of artboards potentially, and then if you also had a design system within there as well, it's just a lot. So I feel like kind of separating it out makes a lot of sense.
For sure.
Working with people who are like have organized files is like the best thing. It makes it so much easier to like just like grab things.
I kind of like stress out on that stuff. So I kind of go into, maybe I can spend a little bit of time tomorrow. I'm gonna spend some time tonight working on this a little bit, so it's like a little bit further down the road, so we can kind of finish it off tomorrow. But yeah, I'm totally that way. I love doing like bigger headers around work, so that like you can be zoomed out but still have reference of what's going on. Super helpful. Yeah, you just never know, especially like depending on how big the company is you work with, like who's going to be in your file the next day, or just maybe browsing around for inspiration, and any little keys are great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump back into the icon mess. Hillary, get back online. We're going to need some help. I remember where the add button was, so let's start there. And this is probably like when I start to actually play around with colors a little bit. I already have the color palette, which is super helpful, but now just starting to see like what works, and then I kind of bounce back between the two. Once I start getting some of these components and things, I'll kind of balance between that first page that I've done and here, so that I'm kind of working back and forth to set the stage a little bit better.
Nice.
What else did we say we were going to do? We were going to do a feed page. Got lucky. We could use that one. And since we're combining, so we're going to combine the profile page and the stats page. Let's see. Probably just do the person then. Actually, let's get it. This is just for you, so we have way more Keanu than we actually need in this thing. Instead of an icon, we'll just go profile picture in the bottom right for you.
Wow. I feel like we've really bonded over this year.
I think we have. We just become best friends.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good. So instead of doing that, let's actually take one of these guys. And then we can also talk about asset panels more because we're doing it. We're using them. Look how perfectly that just worked out, although
Nice.
it's the wrong face, but
It'll all be
we
tomorrow.
will correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. All right. I don't know if I like that though. We might have to keep those pages separate. We'll have to figure that one out. Looking a little empty, a little sad. Just had that moment where you go into like design mode and you forget everything else that's going around you. You're like, so I go pretty crazy and like actually probably like over name my stuff. Could be good, could be bad. Something I've always done. Back in like the Photoshop days, just to keep everything organized. I
think it's always helpful. I feel like if you get into a habit of it, it's like one of those, like, it's a good habit to have. It's not really harmful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, cool. So we are at the countdown of the timer.
Wow.
Yeah. The end of that time. So we're ready for the design feedback section. So we're going to be going through Discord and taking a look. I know that we only just kind of came out with the creative challenge for today's, which was the auto animate. So I know some of you might still be working on those and haven't quite sent them in yet. So we're just gonna take a look at some of the submissions from yesterday, yesterday's challenge, but they've still been coming in today because I know it takes some time to work on them. So we'll be taking a look at the interactive elements, so designing a checklist for a habit tracking app that allows users to check and uncheck items. All right, so let's take a look in Discord at some of your guys' submissions. All right, this is the first one we have in.
Oh, cool.
All right, so we have a video here first. It's a little cut off, but let me resize so we can see it a little better. We can play this video.
Whoa.
This is super cool. Air bike crunches.
I feel like there's a lot of detail, like intricate detail, just even in like this checklist. Like you could have done a simple, just like click the select and it just does like a check mark, but you've also kind of like highlighted and like shifted everything down. So there's like a lot of animation elements
Kind of goes
in here.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with those little like moments of delight.
Yeah.
Especially like a workout app where, you know, some days you feel great, some days you don't. So those little like extra little micro interactions are pretty awesome. It's like, oh, thank God, air bike crunches are over. I actually want to see air bike crunches.
Have you done air bike crunches before?
I don't even know. I mean, I have an idea what they might look like.
All right, right? No, I'm just kidding. I want to see what you think air bike crunches look like, and then.
Bike crunches.
I won't put you on the spot like that. Yeah. But I think the other nice thing about this submission, I mean, and we can get more into the design as well, is like when you post things on Behance, kind of giving some context as to like what the challenge was actually about and some of that. I almost wonder like putting some of this stuff first before you actually put the prototype, because I kind of want to know like what it is before you kind of just show me the final result, because you have all this information of kind of what it was that you were doing, some of the pieces and parts. So I might think about reordering that a little bit.
Yeah, especially since you have so many great little like nuggets of the design in here. Like if you're thinking about it as a case study, like you would hate for somebody just to come and see just the prototype and the video and then miss out on like all, you know, the great reasoning why you're doing things, all the additional screens. There's a lot of great content in here. And then you kind of have that final like play with the prototype at the end.
Yeah, after all this, like, yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's cool though. I love the color palette and super playful, which is cool. It, you know, kind of what we were talking about earlier is like finding inspiration away from like that, you know, not too many workout apps are super fun and playful. They're a little bit more, you know, black, white, kind of boring.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, I also think like the thinking through the details of kind of the, like you have the navigational elements of going back, and even just like the end moments of like good job and kind of like those celebratory moments too, are like nice to just think through like the full experience other than just like going in and like checking things off and kind of like being done with it. So great submission. Thank you for sending that one in. We're going to take a look at another one. Let's see. Oh, we do have one for the brain
awesome.
thing. Nice. Okay. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Here we go. We got the brain. What do you want to dream about? Featured Shawn Mendes. Wow. Date night with Shawn Mendes. Is there any other? Oh, okay. We have a scroll here.
Oh, you can add it to
Enjoy a night out with the Canadian singer. Wait, this is hilarious. Only $35. What a steal.
That is a steal.
I gotta say, I don't know if you know who Shawn Mendes is, but it seems like a steal.
Yeah, it seems like he could get a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I mean, a lot of people purchase that.
That's good.
Explore the world. Nice. I mean, I like that you used also like this fixed scroll up here as a nice like little touch as well to like make it feel more real when you actually add those like elements in of how the app will work.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I would say like the only thing that I think it's looking awesome. The only thing that I would love is, you know, just on that search box is just like a little bit more contrast. It kind of blends into that background, and you know, it almost makes it hard to read, where if you want it to kind of, you know, be secondary, maybe you get rid of the box and then there's like some interaction when you click on it, or if you really want it to be like a little bit more prominent, go with like the white background, but it gets a little muddy up there, but other than that, it's super awesome.
Yeah, it's a good point. Plus, I feel like there's kind of this, I feel like you have like a carrot in here, like to go into the next section, but it's so subtle, right? It's hard to sort of see the definition here, and I feel like either you kind of push it so it looks intentional enough, or right now it's kind of in that in-between where it's kind of unsure what it wants to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe just like, it's hard to tell
on the screen, but maybe just a little bit more drop shadow on the behind the brain. So it kind of just like feels like it's a little bit more elevated off the page. Could be really cool. 'Cause you got shadows on the featured elements, so maybe we could just play with that a little bit too. That would be rad.
Yeah. Cool. Great submission. Thank you for sending that in. Let's see. We're going to take a look at another one. Let's see. We have another My Habits. I think, I have to download that one. There we go. All right. Let's play the Habits one. Nice, super simple, kind of to the point here. You have like your different categories, new designs, games, and then can go into each of these and kind of check these off. I almost want like that actual like check marker, like something a little, like it's a little hard to see on the screen, but there is like, at least there is a border around here to mark these. Yeah.
There you go.
But it is still like pretty subtle. I feel like when I'm like checking something off, it's also like this nice, like done with it or like did it type of thing. So I kind of want that like extra, either like highlight or like check mark or something on here.
Yeah, you could even get into like a color change or something. Since the whole palette's blue, maybe it goes to something different, or maybe you go to like maybe black text and then blue when it's connected. I think super clean. I think the big thing on this page is like scalability. Like what happens after I add more than 4 things here, it kind of starts to scroll off the page and you have a lot of real estate for the kind of the My Habits section. So maybe just kind of playing with that height so that you're, you know, as a repeat user, you're kind of focusing in on actually the things that you're coming back for, because it's great for the first time, but then as My Habits, you know that after the 3rd, 4th time you've been using it.
Yeah, right. You see, once you start clicking the plus and kind of adding more, like this whole section is going to grow pretty large. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and I definitely think this has like a lot of white space sort of up top. So I definitely think kind of shifting that a bit.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of white space. I think, I love using it in my designs. And I think there's great like little interactions that you could do too, where, if you want to use that space when you only have 4, great. And then if you add one, maybe that space gets a little bit tighter. You can also like, on scroll, maybe the habits goes up into like that title area.
Totally.
You could do some like really cool little micro interactions with that.
Yeah, I think this is a great start though, like clean sort of base to start with. And then I think it's kind of like those little details of like seeing if you want to play with another like variation of some color or kind of like the spacing of things and the interactions, getting another level deeper. But a great start. So thank you for adding that submission in. Let's take a look at maybe one more here. We have this one. All right. We have this. We'll take a look at the video. As I feel like it's super clear when you're like, sort of checking these off, kind of like what we were talking about last time. I feel like with white text, it can be so hard sometimes though for like legibility of like reading it on this dark green, it's super clear. But then like this really kind of bright green, it starts to get a little more difficult to like actually read the white text on here.
Yeah, I'd almost, if you want to stay in that green family, go like super dark green on the back. So if you want to keep with the white text, that it kind of, like you said, accessibility is not being compromised. It's super easy to read still, but it starts to get a little hard.
Yeah, it's also interesting like you chose to really like go into like the animation in between like that moment.
Cool.
Yeah, which was like fun to see, of sort of that like waiting for the whole thing to sort of load. So it's fun to play with that animation here.
Yeah, these are super great.
Get it all. Nice. And yeah, I think I have like similar just like towards what we said before of kind of like when you're actually posting some of this stuff up and like showing your process of how you're working on things and you're posting your work on Behance, kind of thinking about you might want to show a little bit more of like some little pieces before you actually get to like here's the finished like final piece of it. And like maybe adding a little bit more context as to what this one was actually about. But this is great. So thank you so much for sending this in. I think those are all the challenges we're going to look at for today. But we will be back here again tomorrow, same time. Charlie's still going to be designing today, but if you didn't get a chance and we didn't get a chance to look at your submissions for the creative challenge, tomorrow there will be another daily creative challenge. You can work on those, and like Charlie and myself will be here to give you guys some feedback if you'd like it. And so yeah, send those in and everyone can take a look at them as well, which is really nice.
Cool.
So yeah, thanks for all your submissions, you guys.
Yeah. No, and I was going to say something too on the, like when you are setting up your Behance, like a lot of, I spend tons of times looking at resumes and resumes. I don't actually look at resumes. Portfolios was the word I was looking for. So Behance and like all that information, like I love reading through that. Like the work is great and like always drawn to that, and that's the big moment. But hearing how somebody's like thought process and why they made certain design decisions is so great because, you know, design, I mean, you can do so many different things to solve one problem. And as somebody looking at designs, like I'm interested to know why you chose that one, because I can look at a design and be like, oh, I would have done it this way, good, bad, and different. But like understanding why you made that design choice is super valuable. So especially if you're putting stuff out on, you know, Behance, that's, you know, definitely the way you want to go.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, I feel like the process and how people actually think through things is like one of the things in even like in interviews for sure, or just like when you're looking at other people's work that like you want to get into, which is also why it's so awesome like having you on and like actually watching you design live versus just having you in and like showing like you're showing some finished thing. It's kind of like being able to get a sense into like your process and how you actually think through this entire thing is super cool to see. Yeah, Juan, love the work, Charlie. People are loving
Thanks,
it.
Juan. I gotta say, I'm a little. This is weird.
The first time's always weird.
Yeah, it is. It's like the talking and then having people watch you while you do it. It's like, maybe I'll just have to make that a thing. I'll just have my kids stand over my shoulder while I'm designing at the house now.
The hovering art director your children will be.
They're definitely that way. My wife's actually really good at that. She tells me pretty straight up.
Really?
Yeah, she's like, that looks terrible. Like, thanks, babe. No, we need Hillary back. We need to find a magnifying glass. Actually, probably do this too. Make life a little bit easier.
Who can find the magnifying glass?
We're in the right space. There's something here, but that's like a zoom.
Oh,
I don't want the
like
zoom.
Yeah.
I want like a search. Actually, let's do. You do location. Location's kind of cool. Got some good ones down here. That one's kind of fun. We're gonna just take a look at what happens if we break the profile and the stats out a little bit, just because. Sometimes I'll go through this too. It's like you're designing the component and it looks one way, it looks kind of weird and off, and then you bring it into the actual design and it actually works really well. But it also is just like another moment to kind of think a little bit deeper through kind of how you're setting things up and whether or not you want to continue down that path.
So I don't normally do this, but Abdullah in the chat mentioned that they had shared their work and hadn't quite made the timeline, but I want to make sure while you're on the stream that we can give you some feedback. So maybe quickly we can take a look at yours just to make sure that we get it in. But again, like tomorrow we'll be on again and we can take a look at more of the submissions. But I have up Abdullah's work for the XD Creative Challenge. So also posted this to Behance, and I feel like great sort of intro of like what we've been talking about, some information about it, fonts, colors, icons used, some of the elements, and then just a few mock-up moments, which I think is nice of kind of like not going like too heavy on showing like the whole app, but just like a couple of pieces here. And then we have the interaction, so I'll go back to 100 here. The final sort of video of this. I feel like the design is super clean so far.
Yeah.
Comes up at the bottom.
I love that like bottom action sheet, you know, especially as the phones are kind of going back to getting bigger again, like having things that are phone accessible is really big. So I like kind of like that utilization there. Super nice. Color palette's nice and clean. Easy to, you know, visual hierarchy is super clear with the red and the white and the black. Really nice.
Yeah, I feel like same thing, like the color palette you chose of just having sort of this action color too. Like it's really simple, but you have the one sort of moment of this like pink or red that you chose that really is being used for like the selected things. You have like the date or like your check marks and kind of like the selected state of things, which I think is working super well. I also think like it's nice to see how many of like the items you have completed in some of these moments here as well. And like it's nice to show kind of unchecking things, like the whole sort of workflow that you might have on those. So well done. I feel like also like the hierarchy of text is like pretty nice, like your fonts and everything like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of space to breathe in this, so well done. I'm glad we had a chance to take a look at your submission really quickly, and then I'll hand it back over to Charlie to kind of wrap things up and maybe give like a bit of a summary of where you started today and like where we've ended up and
Started in design and then we went full on into Keanu Reeves.
I'm so glad you said, because literally I was about to say, and then we went into Keanu Reeves. We did. It's fine.
So just kind of looking back where we started, really kind of just maybe I can just go through my process one last time. A lot of things just start for me, pen, paper, whiteboard. You know, my biggest thing is, you know, use the laptop as like you're finishing the work. That doesn't always work out great, but I think it's a good rule of thumb. I think you can kind of think clearer sometimes. You can move through. You're okay throwing away work quickly. You can iterate faster. But once you get into that and then you start getting into your wires, again, kind of keeping in that like lo-fi, but you're starting to set up those like rules and some of those design systems areas. You're starting to make decisions and looking into, you know, components and things like that. It's kind of, that ties you in and takes you into that, you know, design systems, mind went blank. Design systems page for you. So you have this all set up. You can start kind of doing like porting things over, like we're bringing over the navigation now, playing with some of the avatars. The type ramp, we started out with that, which I always, like I said at the beginning, it's super helpful because, you know, anything that we want to change here now will get changed across any of the work that we've done. So you're not having to kind of go back and forth between the two. Same with the color palette as well. Even though we have more colors in here than we're going to use in the final output, it's a good starting place, and you can start to see what you're going to keep, what you're going to throw away, all that good stuff. And then, yeah, just kind of keying in on some of the things that I identified for kind of the starter kit for design systems: typography, color, iconography, the sizing and the scaling. If you're working across like, you know, multiple surfaces, copy, content, you know, brand voice, all that stuff, you know, ties into this. You know, things we didn't talk about today, but you know, wanted to get into a little bit tomorrow is, you know, the non-pixel stuff like principles, it's one thing to have all these components and things at your hand to like build, but if you don't know how to make the decision based on like your principles or your values for the product or the feature, sometimes it can get a little dicey and you can kind of go rogue, even if you have a really solid like system and component library in place. So
yeah, and I feel like it's been really interesting to see all the way from like on paper, kind of like what you like your process on that, through to kind of like the starts of how you work within these files and like start to create like an app, but also at the same time design system. I feel like not everyone is always doing both hand in hand necessarily. So I think like it's really interesting, and there's a lot of value in like a lot we can talk about tomorrow as well, like you said, more around design systems and kind of the value of that, and like why you would do that, and like some more things around that. So that'll be really interesting. And what are you kind of thinking for like tomorrow, like what you kind of want to go through or next steps from here?
Yeah, I think tomorrow is really kind of diving more into like the design system itself. Now that we have a pretty good, 4 pages that we can kind of finish off tomorrow, start working on some of these components and then actually start to rebuild this in that system. And I think too, we'll start to iterate a little bit on like what looks good, things aren't working, so we can kind of dive in a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah. And Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't even think we had to mention the Keanu Reeves
Oh yeah,
thing.
it was unspoken.
If you know Keanu Reeves and you want him to have him on tomorrow.
Man, I did not think that was where the stream was going to go today, but that's really where we've landed. Yeah.
Point Break anybody?
Point Break anyone? Absolutely. Yes. Cool. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Charlie is going to be back on again tomorrow, and we have a similar schedule for tomorrow as we did today with the challenges in the morning for Photoshop and XD. And then Charlie and myself will be back from 12 to 2, same time, so you can see the evolution of his process and see where we end up with everything with Keanu and everything else in between. It'll be great. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hopefully tune in again tomorrow.
Yeah, come back.
Thank you.